double click the page because the letters are not very clear.
Really? How about right now?
Yes, now it's very clear.
Okay. Abstract says coastal litter abundance and its effects have increased for years. Waste reduction is the most effective countermeasure to fight against this problem. Littering attitudes may have an effect on people's involvement in coastal cleanups. In this study, coastal litter perception, awareness about its impact, and the likely sources were investigated in local population from South Bay of Biscay, Spain. People of different age groups and commitment levels regarding litter were interviewed and their answers compared with the data from the area. Results showed differences in perception between volunteers and non-volunteers, but not between children and adults. Interaction effect of age was found for awareness. Volunteers and children tended to erroneously attribute the main litter origin to beachgoers more than non-volunteers or adults. Our results suggest that encouraging local people to clean beaches would contribute to improve their perception of the problem and their attitudes towards taking action. It's relatively short and simple paper, and I showed my abstract. This is my abstract for this seminar. In the introduction, they say education is crucial for stopping littering behavior, since more aware people would reduce littering. They think like this, and deeper understanding of the attitude and the knowledge of citizens can improve modern litter management. So they hypothesized two things. The hypothesis of them is, first, the active involvement in cleanups correlates with higher perception of modern litter. Second, higher awareness and concern in the group of volunteers is expected than in the non-volunteer groups. It's their hypothesis, and they tested with interviews. This is the study area. It's Spain, upper part of Spain. There is a Bay of Biscay, and this is area called Asturias. And 9 regions are showing in this figure, and they introduced previous study. Previous study collected is Lech et al. 2018. They also collected debris from here. They collected from 15 sites, according to their paper. And I'll go to the materials and method. This appears in the result, but I put this result here because this is just a previous study, and they didn't suggest their cleanup result. So it's others' result, Lech et al. And Rayon-Viña et al. In this area, this amount of debris are here. This blue bar belongs to the average density items per square meter from this result, Lech et al. And the average was they collected a different size according between studies. For blue bar, the debris was larger than 1.5 centimeter, and orange bar, the data was from larger items, larger than 2.5 centimeter. And the average was 1.41 for blue bar and 0.56 items per square kilometer for orange bar. And considering the size, the density from two sides was highly significant correlated for the 8 beaches in common in the two studies. It means the amount of debris among these sites were correlated each other. And for social study, they interviewed with 208 people. Among them, 75 were volunteers and 133 were non-volunteers. And these are characteristics of them. Among volunteers, 24 adults and 51 children. Among general public people, 71 are adults and 62 were children. And their age approximately, they didn't ask age, but approximately for non-volunteers, 30 to 70 years old, and the paper says. And for volunteers, they were between from 10 to 16 years old. And they says for children, adults accompanied with them. And these questionnaires relatively simple. It was composed of 4 questions. Number 1 question: how much litter do beaches have? And I showed before on this slide. I told you 1.41 items for smaller item, larger than 1.5 centimeter item, and 0.56 items for square meter is compared with other studies around the world is not so highly polluted in this area. And they asked the interviewees for the pollution level. Number 1, how much litter do beaches have? And number 2, how much does the litter impact on the beach? And number 3, which do you think is the most common beach litter material? Choose among choose one among plastics, lost or otherwise discarded fishing gear, ALDFG, or glass or cans, or other materials. Question number 4, which do you think is the main origin of the beach litter? Choose one among households, or maritime activities and fishing, or beachgoers, or others. For question number 1 and question number 2, answers were Likert scaled from 1 to 5. And I think you are familiar with this Likert scale interview. And 1 is the lowest value and 5 is the highest value. And for question number 3 and question number 4, the answers were single choice. They have to choose one among these examples. And these questions were showed to all interviewees, and the 5 possibilities explained. For number 3 and number 4, they explained both with the numerical and verbal answers. They explained for all of them. And I will show you the result one by one. For perception and impact of litter, it belongs to the number 1 and the question number 1 and question number 2. And left side showed the result of for question number 1, and the right side show the result of for question number 2. And for question number 1, highly significant, I'm sorry, I have to erase. Highly significant differences were found between volunteers and non-volunteers. You have to see the blue bar for question number 1. And it means here blue bar is higher than this side. So they tested significant statistics tests were conducted. It means significantly, highly significant difference were found between volunteers and non-volunteers, but not between age groups. Here, adults and children, there was no significant differences. Volunteers did perceive more little on the beach than non-volunteers. It means the blue bar here, left side, is higher than here, significantly. And for question number 2, there was also a high significant effect from volunteering. It means this left orange bar is significantly higher than those of right orange bar. And it means with volunteers being more aware of the little impact than non-volunteers with each age group. And adults and children all together knows about the impact of marine litter for volunteers. And types of litter, it belongs to the question number 3. And this is plastic, and dark purple is ALDFG, and dark green is glass or cans, and bright green is other materials. And as you see, highly significant differences were found between volunteers and non-volunteers. It means here more than 90% of volunteers choose plastics, but around 60% of non-volunteers choose plastic as the most abundant type of litter. And most volunteers pointed out plastic as the most abundant type of litter, and significant differences were not found between age groups for volunteers and all for non-volunteers. Within this group, this big bar, this one and this one is not significantly different, and here also this bar and this bar is not significantly different. It means between age group, but here and here are significantly different. It means, and for origin of litter, is you can see the difference. The household item is dark blue, and the red one is for ships, and the yellow one is beach balls, and green one is for others. And I abstracted from the sentence of the paper. Number 1, significantly different between adults and children within the volunteers and non-volunteers. It means age difference appeared here. You can see the height of this bar, and significantly different between two groups of adults. Here and here, the height or what they choose at the litter type or different. And number 4, children attributed the origin to beach balls. Here, overall, for volunteers, they choose beach goers, then more than non-volunteers, and children, especially children, choose beach goers for original leader here too. But here, for non-volunteers, others choose household item, and household item was chosen more by non-volunteers than volunteers. Here, this item, they choose more. Non-volunteers choose more household item, but volunteers, adult volunteers choose 30% of them choose the household. That's correct. About 30% of them choose household item as the original leader, and that's the result of the questionnaire. And the authors in discussion section, the authors summarized their result. I abstracted their result from their discussion from the paper, and it appears in this slide. Number 1, volunteers perceived significantly more virtual reader than non-volunteers. It shows the result of number 1, independently of the age group. I told you already, there was no significant difference in age groups. And number 2, the volunteers were more aware of reader impact than the non-volunteers. Here, this figure. And number 3, children erroneously attributed beach reader to beachgoers as the main source significantly more than others. And I abstracted here. I think we can talk about this more. And anyway, you can understand this result if we see this figure again. And number 4, previous study revealed about here in this area. Previous study revealed almost 70% of the items sampled.
Plastic.
Plastic. Okay, plastic. Where?
70% of plastics.
And 70% of them sampled wall of plastic. I did something for studying seminars, so I think I erased the plastic. The previous study revealed almost 70% of items sampled was plastic, followed by ALDFG. It means they choose beach goer as the original leader, but the real survey was different. The author wanted to say that the possession of the most abundant reader type, plastics, was generally correct for the volunteers, while 40% of non-volunteers did choose another type of reader as the most abundant. Here I'll show you again. I'm sorry. This one. And here volunteers chose plastic as the most abundant, but is larger than real data. And non-volunteers, only 60% of them choose plastics. Here it says, means more than 40% choose another type, And number 5, the association of higher knowledge and taking action against the reader could be the result of previous higher level of concern motivated to search for information about marine reader. It means I think I show you the paper about this after reading all of this. And number 6, regarding the origin, previous study reported fishing and aquaculture gear as the second most important type of leader after sewage. Sewage is the most of was the number 1, and while household and leisure objects ranked third place in this region. However, in this study, it was chosen by fewer than 10% of participants because they choose the origin of leader as beach goers. The result, these results are thus heavily biased toward beach goers as the main contributor of marine litter. In other regions, it was true. Beach goers are the main contributor of the marine litter, but here, aquaculture gears the second most abundant type of litter, and they could choose ships or the question says maritime activities and fishing. So they could choose maritime activities and fishing, but the answer was different. And number 8, children more than regardless of volunteering status, more often attributed the beach source of the source of litter to beachgoers than others, reinforcing the idea of higher perception as a result of in real hands-on cleanup. Here, they used perception and awareness. I was confused about this vocabulary. So let's talk about this perception and awareness. And number 9, that is the conclusion. To efficiently combat the issue of marine litter, improving public awareness about the topic is crucial, taking into account that we are part of both the problem and the solution. We are contributor of the litter, and we have to solve this problem. And any questions about this abstract?
No, I don't have.
Okay, then how about think about this perception and awareness? And number 7 and 8, the paper says maybe here.
Hello?
Hello. And as far as I understand,
I don't know the difference between perception and awareness.
The paper says, as far as I understand, the paper says, if they know about the marine needle and they are interested in the marine needle, they do volunteering, then they can they know well about marine needle and their perception was correct. Correct means close to the survey result. But if the result of higher perception did not come from volunteering, am I right? So they use the awareness and perception. Perception is the motivation of the volunteering, and they have correct. I don't know the right term. Correct. Anyway, correct perception about the marine needle.
Probably impression.
Perception.
Perception.
Yes. Like exact knowledge, information. Here.
Generally, we use perception and awareness together. I don't have any idea how to exactly distinguish two terms, but I think in this paper they probably use the term perception is a kind of impression or general knowledge based on their experiences or existing study or something before further knowledge, or before getting further knowledge or experiencing cleanups.
Here. I found it. However, in our study, the questionnaires were posted before cleanup. That is, before taking actions. The questionnaire survey was performed before cleanup, and they started cleanup. And this cleanup is first time for them. And in the case of volunteers, so their higher knowledge of beach status was not due to them having more recent and more accurate information about real beach status than the non-volunteers. It means they have already information about marine needle, and they perceived marine needle. I understand like that. So the higher record number was higher than non-volunteers for number one and question number one and question number two. So they perceived marine needle before cleanup. So the education or hand-on education in situ was important for experience, for knowledge building, awareness building, something like that. I think the author wanted to say that. Could you have another opinion?
Any questions or comments?
No, we have no question.
Okay, then.
For me, in your slide, discussion part.
this paper is not explained in detail, so and simple paper.
In your slides, would you share the discussion slide?
Not this paper, right?
You summarize the discussion.
This one.
Yes. In this case, number 3, the authors say children erroneously attributed things like this. But for me, there was some weakness in this kind of interpretation because we don't exactly distinguish which is from beachgoers, which is from households. Usually, those are combined together. But children attribute this source as the number one source. It's not a kind of error. It can be happen even for the volunteer adults. If they enlarge the number of the survey target interviewees, the result might be different, in my thinking. If they look into the more classified categories of beachgoers, source, and household sources. And also, number 4, in the previous study, showing 70% come from plastic. It consists of plastics, and only 12% consists of derivative fishing gears. So it is the second the most, but the number, the proportion is very low. So I think their discussion have some misunderstanding in interpretation of the beach litter data. And the beach litter category is also a little bit confused. For example, plastic, ALDFG, and glass. It is mixed categories referring to material and also source activities. So those parts are not very clearly defined in this paper. That's my concern.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Anything else from Yanning?
I have no question about this paper, but I'm thinking maybe it would be interesting to test what fishermen's perception to those marine litters, because when we visit fishing ports, the fishermen always complain about there are a lot of marine litter. But when we ask where do they think the litter come from, they complain other fishermen throw it.
Same in Korea.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting too. But they never said they themselves throw the garbage. They always complain others. So I think it's maybe interesting to do this kind of survey, maybe in Taiwan or in Korea, to understand.
Actually, we did some surveys and tried to publish, but it was rejected. So we will revise the content and apply to another different journal.
Yeah, okay.
Anything from Jason? Jason? I cannot hear you.
Could you type your message?
Hello.
Hello? Hello, I can hear you now.
I just found this study is found by very interesting. It's found by Ministry of Economy, and they have a grant called Blue Pot. So I will share some website links at the chat room. I think it's interesting because probably it shows marine litter is a very overwhelming issue that makes the Ministry of Economy also support the research about marine litter on the beach. But money is from Blue Pot, so that's my idea.
Okay. No more questions or comments? If there is no more, we can wrap it up quickly and have some time to share information. It is not related to the paper. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for participating again. And Jongsu, would you wrap it up?
We have to fix the next seminar date. November 5th. Is okay?
Yes.
10:30?
Yeah.
Okay, then this time who choose the paper? Anybody volunteers?
Jason or Yanning?
I can volunteer.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, then I
And
close this
again.
meeting room. Okay?
Yeah. Goodbye.
Can I close? Sorry, can I close this meeting room?
You close. No, you don't close. Just stop the recording.
You don't use the meeting room more this time?
No, we have to stay in this meeting room. So you just stop the recording.